So in the last class, we discussed about large numbers, but we are limited to one number at a time. So for example, if I have a number 2026, so we studied how to write this number in words, how to write this number in expanded form, how to find the place value of 2, how to find the face value of 2, what is the difference between place value and face value, what are the different digits at different positions. For example, 6 is at the units place, 2 is at the tens place, 0 is on the hundreds place, and 2 is on the thousands place. Subsequently, we saw how to write this in expanded form. After which, what we did is we tried to represent this number on abacus, and we also tried to represent this number using Roman numerals. And we saw what are the different rules for Roman numerals that we can use or we can apply to write any given number in the Roman number format. Okay. Now, what we will do in this chapter is say we are not limited to just one number. We'll have two or more numbers, and then we have to do certain operation on it. Say if I have 2026, I have another number, say 2025, and I need to add those two numbers. I need to subtract those two numbers. I need to multiply those two numbers. I need to divide. I could also divide those two numbers. So this chapter deals with the various computation operations that we'll do on these two numbers, or say more than two numbers taken at a time. Okay. Before we move on to this chapter, we'll just see a question on large numbers. I mean, we have already discussed the question. We'll just try to solve it. So read the given statements carefully and state true, T for true and F for false. The first question says Roman numeral for largest three-digit number is CM, XC, IX. So we'll first see what is the largest three-digit number. So the largest three-digit number is 999, and the smallest three-digit number is 100. Right, now we'll see whether this Roman number represents 999 or not. Again, we'll divide this into multiple groups. For example, CM. M represents 1000, C represents hundreds. Since a small number or a small letter is behind M, we'll subtract. So it'll give us 900. Similarly, we have XC. C represents 100 again, X represents 10. So we'll subtract 10 from 100 since 10 is smaller than 100. So 100 minus 10 is 90, so we'll write 90 here. And then we have IX. X represents 10 and I represents 1. If I subtract 1 from 10, I get 9. So if I add all these three numbers, I'll get 999, which is the largest three-digit number. So this statement is true. The second question says the sum of face value of 8 and 6 in the number 85642 is 100. We know that the face value of a given number is the number itself. So if I have 8, the face value of 8 would be 8. And if I have 6, the face value of 6 would be 6. So if I add those two numbers or take the sum of the two numbers, we'll get 40, which is not equal to 100. So this statement is false. The third question says the largest five-digit number formed from the digits 96052 without repetition. So we don't have to repeat any of the digits. It is 95062. So what do we need to do in this question? We need to arrange the number from the largest to the smallest. So we'll have the largest number, which is 9. Then we have the subsequent largest number, the second largest, which is 6. The third largest is 5. The fourth largest is 2. And the fifth largest is 0. So we'll get 96520. But the statement says it is 95062, which is false. So that is why we have true, false, false, which is option number C. Okay. So what we'll study in this chapter, so first of all, we'll see how to find the sum, how to find the difference, and the product of two numbers. So which we can eventually expand to more than two numbers as well. Then we'll see how to divide two numbers. Subsequently, we'll see, once we have studied about product and division, we'll study about multiples and factors, right? And then see how to, so HCF and LCM are specific cases of multiples and factors. So we'll see how to find the HCF and LCM of the numbers. And then finally, we'll study about the unitary method. Unitary method is nothing but if I give you a question, say the price of one chocolate is 5 rupees, find the price of 50 such chocolates. Or say the price of 50 chocolate is 50 rupees, so find the price of one chocolate. So what you try to do is you use the value of 1 unit of that quantity to find the answer or find the price or whatever for any given number. So you know the price of 1 unit of that number, you can find the price of 50 units, you can find the price of 60 units, 100, even 1000, right? So that is what you mean by unitary. So it has unit inherent in it. So that is where you use the price or the amount that is denoted by 1 unit of anything. Okay, so before jumping into the topics, we'll just look at a question wherein we can apply addition or subtraction or both, right? So say you went to a park and then you saw a sign that mentions the main attraction. So the main attraction are 3,863 roses and 2,721 tulips. Okay, so you saw a signboard that mentions that the main attraction are these. Now you are given a question that what is the total number of flowers? So you have to find what are the total number of flowers in the park, and then at the same time you are also asked how many more roses are there than the tulips. So I'll just first look into the first part and then look into the second part. So the first part says the total number of flowers. We know that to find the total number of anything, we just have to add the total number of flowers. I mean, flowers are comprising of roses and tulips, so we have to find the total number by just taking the sum of two numbers. So to find the total number of flowers in the park, we add the number of tulips and roses. And then how do we add it? We apply this concept of columnar addition. Okay? First of all, there are some terminologies. So the numbers that we add are known as addends. Okay, so 3,863 roses and 2,421 tulips. Both of them are addends. So addends are the number that we add. Now, how do we write the numbers? So we ensure that, or we align the numbers in such a way that the units digit of both the addends coincide, the tens digit of both the addends coincide, the hundreds digit also coincide, and the thousands digit also coincide. Now, this is a simple case wherein we have both the numbers have the same number of digits. Say, for example, we can also have a case wherein the numbers may have different digits. For example, 3,863 and say 221. Now they have different number of digits. So what we'll do, so this is 221. So what we'll do here, we'll write units digit should coincide. So 1 will write here, then tens digit. So 2 will write here, and then 2 will write here. Right? And then instead of, in place of the thousands digit, since we don't have any corresponding digit here, so we'll just leave it as it is. Okay. So now once we have, so the first step was aligning. Now we move on to the addition. The second step now. We have to add. So again, we have two options, whether we can either add from here or we can add from here, right? But this part will give you incorrect answer. So you should always start from the right or the units digit. So you should start adding from the units digit. So we'll do 3 plus 1, which will give you 4. Then move on to the tens digit. So you'll get 6 plus 2, which is 8. Right? So these are the step 2 and step 3. Now moving on to the next step, add the digit in the hundreds place. So there is one more concept now. All the previous additions that we have done, for example, 3 plus 1, 4, 6 plus 2, 8, we got a number that was less than 10, right? Here we will get a number that is greater than 10. So 8 plus 4 is 12. So what we'll do here, so just try to understand what this means. This means that you have 8 hundreds and 4 hundreds because they are at hundreds place. So 8 hundreds plus 4 hundreds gives us 12 hundreds. Right, and then 12 hundreds basically means 1200. Right, so this is made up of, if we further divide this, this is made up of 1000 and then 200. So that is why we write 2 here, because we have 200s only, and then 1000. So that 1000 goes here. So that is added to 3. So that this is known as regrouping. What we try to do when we get a term that is more than 10, so we try to regroup it by assigning 1 or carrying over that 1 to the higher digit, right? So 8 plus 4 gives us 1200. So out of that 1200s, 200s we gave it to 2, and I mean we gave it to the hundreds place, and the remaining 1, which was 1000s, we gave it to thousands place, which will be added. And then finally what we do is we try to add those two numbers. So 3 plus 2 gives us 5, and then 1 was the carry that we got from here. So we get 6 here. Okay, so the answer for the first question is 6,284. So the total number of flowers in the park are 6,284. Now we move on to the next second question. How many more roses are there than the tulips? Right. So we have to find how much is the rose more than tulips. So here we are comparing two things. So whenever we do a comparison of two things, we take their differences. And to take their differences, we use subtraction. We know that the number of roses are more than the number of tulips. So we'll write rose first. Again, there are some terminologies. So the number that is usually greater that we write at the top is known as minuend, and the number that we subtract from the larger number or the minuend is known as the subtrahend. Right, so we'll first write the minuend and the subtrahend in a column. So alignment is again the same as addition. So we'll make sure that the units digit coincide, the tens digit coincide, the hundreds digit coincide, and the thousands digit coincide. Now we start with the subtraction process. Again, the same as addition. So like we started from the units digit, we'll subtract instead of adding. So 3 minus 1 gives us 2. 6 minus 2 gives us 4. Right? 8 minus 4 gives us 4, and 3 minus 2 gives us 1. Right? Here, this was a very simple question wherein there is no regrouping required. So we'll also see a question wherein we need some regrouping to be done. Okay, so the answer is 1442 to the second question. That means the park has 1442 more roses than the tulips. Now, I mean, we have some exercise questions, so maybe you can just solve them and then we'll discuss. The first question says to add these two numbers, 6,175 and 2,854. Again, we see that the digits are aligned. So we'll write 5 plus 4 is 9. 7 plus 5 is 12. So we'll just write 2 from the 12 here and then move on this one. This will be carried over, right? And then we'll have 8 plus 9. 8 plus 1 is 9 and 9 plus 1 is 10. So out of that 10, we'll just write 0 and then 1 moves here. So remember, if it is greater than or equal to 10, we have to just write the units digit. So if it is of 2 digit, we just write 1, the unit digit, and then move on the tens digit here. Right, so the 1 moves here. So 6 plus 2 is 8, 8 plus 1 is 9. Okay. Here we have to subtract two numbers, and then here we have a case wherein regrouping is required. When is regrouping required? When the digit on the minuend is smaller than the subtrahend. For example, 2 and 7. So we cannot subtract 2 from 7 directly. So what this 2 does is, it borrows 1 from 0, but 0 has nothing to give. So it will further borrow 1 from 5. So when it borrows 1 from 5, it becomes 10. And 5 becomes 4. Right? Let me just write this question here so it is more clear. So we have 5, 5, 0, 2, and subtracted by 1, 9, 6, 7. Now if I subtract these two terms or these two numbers, so first thing is we notice that this is smaller. So it will borrow from this, but it has nothing to give. So it will it will borrow 1 from 5. So it borrows 1 from 5, it becomes 10. Right? And then this becomes 4. So there's a difference between these two terms. What is happening here is, when we got a digit greater than 10, we just wrote the units digit and then carried over this one here. So this one we did not write as 16, remember. Right? We just added this one to the 6. However, if we are taking, in case of subtraction, if we are borrowing, it will become the tens digit. Why is this the case? Because, say, this one was the units digit, this one is the tens digit, this one is the hundreds digit, and this is the thousands digit. Now, when I'm borrowing 1 from this 5, what is happening is I'm not borrowing just 1, I'm borrowing 100, which is equal to 10 tens. So, this will be 10, right? And say, for example, again, this will borrow 1 from this 10 because 2 is small. then 7. So it has to borrow 1 from 10 as well. So when it borrows, this becomes 9 and this will become 12. Why? Because 1 tens is equal to 10 ones. So you have to add 10 to it and not just 1. So that is why this is happening. I hope this is clear. So, I mean, it is very important to understand the difference when we use a carry in addition versus when you borrow something in subtraction. So that is the difference. So you'll write 7 plus, I mean 12 minus 7 is 5. 9 minus 6 is 3. Again you have 4 here, which is smaller than 9, so it has to borrow 1 again. Right? So it will borrow 1. So it becomes 14. And then this becomes 4 since it has given 1. So this will be 5 and then this will be 3. So the answer is 3535. So this is exactly what we got for the two questions. Now let us look at some questions from previous year to get more clarity. The first question says, what should be added to 2055 to make 20555? So again, try to solve this on your own. Okay. And then we are going to discuss. So the first question says, what should be added to 2055 to make 20555? So these two are, I mean, what is the question trying to say? I have this already, I need to make this. Or say, assume I have this many chocolates, I need this. So how many more chocolates that I need? Right? So in order to find the number of chocolates I need, I just have to subtract these two numbers. Right? So here, the answer should lie in, I mean, we can get the answer by doing subtraction. So we'll first identify the minuend. So this is the minuend because this is larger and this will lie at the top. So 2, 0, 5, 5, 5. Right? And then just write the digits, or even if you don't write the digits, make sure they are aligned to 2055. So 5 is the units digit of 2055. 5 is the tens digit. 0 is the hundreds digit. And 2 is the thousands digit. So we have aligned this and then we'll write the subtraction symbol and then start subtracting. So 5 minus 5 is 0. 5 minus 5 is 0. 5 minus 0 is 5. Here 0 is less than 2, so we have to do regrouping. So we'll borrow 1 from this, so this will become 10 and then this becomes 1. And then when we subtract these two, we get 8 and then 1 comes down. So 18500 is the answer.